The day began like any other. Flight FL917, bound from Tokyo to New York, soared high into the sky just after sunrise. It was a full flight. Passengers from all walks of life settling into their seats, some chatting excitedly about their destination, others already dozing off. The hum of the engines was a comfort, the kind that lulled you into believing nothing could go wrong. Emily sat by the window in row 17A, her arms gently wrapped around her 7-year-old daughter, Lily. The little girl's face was pale, her eyes tired. Born with a fragile heart condition, she had already been through more than most adults. Emily was taking her to the US for one final life-saving surgery. Her entire world was packed into 2 suitcases and the small, frail body beside her. A few rows behind, David, a retired soldier in his late 40s, leaned back in silence. He had once been a man of faith, raised in a church-going family, strong in belief, but war had changed him. After losing his wife and son in a bombing during his last deployment, he stopped praying, stopped believing, stopped everything. He hadn't smiled in years. This flight was just another passage through time, another quiet exile from meaning. The skies were clear. The flight attendants moved through the cabin offering drinks and meals. Children giggled at cartoons on their seat screens. Couples whispered about plans in New York. The hum of life was uninterrupted, until it wasn't. Roughly 3 hours into the flight, somewhere over the vast, merciless Pacific, turbulence hit, light at first, then suddenly sharp and brutal. The plane lurched. Seatbelts clicked in unison. Drinks spilled. Gasps and nervous laughter fluttered through the cabin. Then came the flash. A blinding light. A crack like the sky itself had split. Lightning struck the left engine. The plane shuddered with a metallic groan. Alarms blared in the cockpit. Cabin lights flickered. And then silence. The engine died. Moments later, the second engine sputtered. The plane began to drop. In the cockpit, the pilots fought to regain control, sending out mayday signals. The radio crackled. No response. Everything failed. They were now descending rapidly, the aircraft dropping hundreds of feet every few seconds. The descent wasn't graceful. It was violent, chaotic, and all too real. Inside the cabin, panic erupted. A baby screamed. An elderly man clutched his chest. A woman began praying loudly in Spanish. The oxygen masks fell, dangling like lifelines from above. Emily held Lily tightly, whispering, "It's okay, baby, it's okay." Over and over, though her hands trembled. She wanted to be brave, but her lips couldn't stop moving in silent prayer. David sat frozen. His heart pounded in his ears louder than the screams. His mouth opened, he didn't know why, and for the first time in years he muttered, "God, if you're real." The plane kept falling. Instruments died. Communication was lost. The ocean, once distant, now loomed beneath them, dark and waiting. Then it happened. The moment no science could explain. A sudden calm swept through the aircraft, impossibly calm, as though someone had pressed pause on time. The screaming softened. The rattling quieted. The entire aircraft felt weightless, suspended. And then, through the storm clouds, an overwhelming light burst through. Not lightning, not sunlight. A radiant, warm, golden light, unmistakable in its purity. It poured through the windows, and with it came silence. Passengers turned to look outside, and what they saw would be etched in their memories forever. Hovering beside the aircraft, as if the laws of gravity and reason had vanished, was a being made of pure light. Not a figure they could describe with exactness, but everyone knew what it was. It was him. Not a vision, not a dream, not hysteria. It was God. His form glowed with majesty and peace, vast enough to stretch across the sky, yet tender in his gaze. His hand, huge, gentle, appeared beneath the plane, holding it aloft like a leaf. The wings steadied. The engines, dead moments ago, began to whir faintly. Cracks in the fuselage shimmered and vanished like healed scars. Tears streamed down faces throughout the cabin. Emily wept and kissed Lily's forehead. The little girl smiled faintly. "Mommy, I saw an angel." David looked up with eyes full of disbelief and wonder, whispering, "I was wrong. I was so wrong." Time seemed to bend. For what felt like minutes, the plane was bathed in light, protected from the storm and the sea. The clouds parted. The sky, once filled with rage, became still like the eye of a storm, but more than that, felt alive. Then, just as gently as it had appeared, the hand of light lifted, and the figure began to ascend, disappearing into the heavens. The engines roared back to life. The controls responded. The pilots, in shock, re-engaged the systems. Everything worked, as if nothing had ever gone wrong. The descent stopped. The plane leveled. They were safe. An emergency landing was arranged in Honolulu. Ambulances stood by. Emergency crews prepared for the worst. But as the aircraft touched down, it was eerily quiet. No screams, no smoke, no fire. Just the soft thud of wheels on tarmac and a cabin full of stunned souls. When the doors opened, passengers stepped into the sunlight like survivors of a dream. No one could explain what had happened. Reporters asked questions. Experts speculated. But the passengers, they knew. They had been saved. Not by technology, not by luck, but by something greater than anything man had ever built. By the one who still watches even in the sky. David dropped to his knees on the tarmac, eyes lifted to the blue above, and whispered, "You never left." Emily knelt beside him, holding Lily's hand. The little girl looked up, her voice soft. "Mommy, he caught us." Like a hug. And somewhere above the clouds, where science ends and faith begins, a light still lingers. Not every miracle is loud. Some descend in silence, just when we need them most.